Okay, testing. Okay, good. All right, Shapiro, I've got two questions for you. One, just to get the nerves out, and second one's going to be a bit important. First, do you know a YouTuber by the name of Secular Talk, Kyle Kalinske?
No, I don't actually.
He was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I think it would be interesting if you two debated each other.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Okay, thanks. All right. And then the second one. The second one's a bit critical. Shapiro, you've shown disdain for the people who have called you and a lot of your remarks bigoted. And you make it one of your hallmarks, right? Like, if someone calls you a sexist, racist, bigot, homophobe, you can't take that. You have to, like, fight back like, immediately. Yet, you call these claims against you preposterous, but yet, considering the fact that, A, while you were an editor-at-large at Breitbart, they called people like Bill Kristol a renegade Jew. Also, they...
That was after I left, actually, but...
What did you say?
That was after I left.
Okay. And also, touting...
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
Also counting Jewish leaders as neocons, something that you yourself have said is an anti-Semitic slur. Also, when you resigned, you just saw the infamous poster that they put on you. They put, like, your face into the David Star. Also, you initially defended a video of your own creation. Well, not of your own creation.
It was not of my creation, yeah. The
Columbus
Day video, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Daily Wire's, you defended that initially, that video where you defended that as satire. Of course, the infamous video of people, of Native American people, their genocide.
Yeah, the video's garbage.
Justified.
Right.
And then finally, and most infamously, you said that Arabs, not Islam, were, quote, your words, were the darkness in the Middle East, were rotten to the core. And most infamously and horribly, you said Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage.
Okay, so can I address those one at a time? Okay, so let's go through them one by one. So, so let's start with the last one, the bomb crap and live in open sewage. Go back and look at the entire Twitter thread. I was specifically talking about the leadership of Hamas. I actually say that in the thread, like in the next tweet. So I don't believe that all Arabs like to live in open sewage and bomb crap, obviously. I think there are millions of Arabs, I actually say in that thread, in that exact same thread, that there are millions of Arabs across the Middle East who are wonderful people, and there are many millions of Muslims who are wonderful people. So, again, that one's out of context. As far as the Columbus Day video, what happened is that I was on vacation, and I got news that this thing had broken. And I looked at it, and it looked to me like a bad video, but a satire video. And I'm always hesitant to pull down satire just as a general rule, because I think that once you start pulling down satire, then you are opening yourself up to the charge that anything that is intended to be humorous is supposed to be taken at face value. So my initial response was very torn. And over the course of the next 24 hours, the more I looked at it, the more I thought it was garbage, and the more I thought that the comedic value of it was dramatically outweighed by the nastiness of it. And I took the hit myself, and I took it down. Right, so there's that. As far as the column where I talked about darkness in the Middle East, what I specifically was talking about, again, that's taken out of context, is about a column. It was a column with regard to the Palestinian Authority and the fact that if you were to juxtapose Israeli settlements to the Palestinian Authority, then what you would be looking at is a regime that is terroristic and supports terror attacks and supports tyranny and supports the imprisonment of gay people and does not support women's rights. And you're looking on the other side at a regime, at a state that supports all of the same values that we in the West value. So I think it's important that we actually give full context to each of those remarks. Again, the reason that I fight back on the racist, homophobe, bigot charge is because if you're going to call me that without evidence, then you're a jackass. And if you're going to take my stuff out... And taking context and I'm not suggesting this is what you're doing. My guess is that you're probably getting this off a list that was provided by some group or another. But if that's the case, then pulling quotes out of context and then using these as bludgeons without actually looking at what I was saying is a cheap trick.
Okay.
So you were talking about the evolution of the term white supremacy, racism, all of those ideas, but the fact is white supremacy is not new. The conservative values that you and many here wish to uphold, y'all kind of ignore the fact that this country was founded on the genocide of Native Indigenous peoples who were called primitive savages and murdered, massacred. Racism and white supremacy is not a bipartisan issue. It's an American issue and one which we must all come to terms with. But if the American dream, which you were talking about, is that anyone can do anything and be anything that they want, how can we support this kind of fanciful idea when the reality is that Native peoples and so many other marginalized groups, through systemic economic barriers partly caused by the environment of our founding, are left behind from that dream?
The question is, I'll rephrase it. The question is, isn't it true that America was contaminated by white supremacy from the very beginning, and that the genocidal acts of white supremacy, like the displacement, relocation, and massacre of the native Indians, is an American crime and not a partisan crime? Let me answer it this way. First of all, who were the people who took the American Indians off their ancestral lands, drove them further west, enslaved the ones who stayed, killed the ones who resisted? The answer, the Jacksonian Democrats of the 19th century. They did it. Now, what is the proof of this? This is very interesting. The proof of this, weirdly enough, is Hitler himself. When Hitler was sitting in Landsberg prison, Hitler had a problem, and the problem was that he wanted Germany to be a superpower in the way that Britain and France were, the superpowers of Europe. And Hitler was thinking, we have to do this through colonialism, because that's how the British and the French became powerful. The British run India, they run half of Africa, the French have colonies all over the world. Hitler thought, Germany needs to do that. But he realized, but there's nothing left to take. All the real estate on the planet has been sort of occupied. So how can Germany become a great power? And then Hitler realized. Andrew Jackson figured out how to do that in the United States. His formula was really simple. Drive the Indians off their land, kill the ones who resist, enslave the ones who remained. In other words, Jackson didn't have to leave his neighborhood. He performed genocide and colonialism right at home. And Hitler said, I got to do that. I got to take a page from the Jacksonian Democrats. I don't need to go hunting for India or Africa. I'm going to take the Poles, the Slavs, the Eastern Europeans, the Russians. I'm going to throw them off their land. If they resist, I'll kill them. If they stay back, I'll enslave them. I want every German to live on a farm. This is Adolf Hitler, taking a page from the book of the Jacksonian Democrats of the 19th century. Now, this has been exposed very recently by the historian Timothy Snyder and others. But here's again, Hitler knows something that your textbooks have evidently not taught you, which is that this was a project of the Democratic Party to create white supremacy, because Andrew Jackson stole that land, he gave it to settlers in exchange for their votes. He sold it at bargain basement prices. And so white supremacy becomes the foundational ideology of the Democratic Party, not just with regard to blacks, but also with regard to American Indians. So no, this is not a bipartisan issue. This is not an American tragedy. Remember, we fought a big civil war over issues like this. One bunch of Americans did really bad things, and another bunch of Americans, otherwise called Republicans, stopped them. So
So what is your formal education background? So I guess a lot of people don't know what your undergraduate degree was in.
So I was at UCLA in political science and then Harvard Law School.
Okay. So you don't have, you wouldn't consider yourself an expert in sociology?
I mean, I don't consider sociology a particularly expert field, but go ahead. I think I'm able to read a sociological study.
It is a field of study, but so you're not necessarily an expert.
Yes, there are lots of fields of study.
Right. Well, what I'm getting at is there's a lot of topics.
Let's put it this way, I know a lot less about welding than I do about sociology.
What I'm getting at is that you're not considered an expert in sociology, psychology, gender studies, lesbian dance theory, many of these things that you've brought up tonight.
I know a lot more about all those others than lesbian dance theory. As far as, if you want to take issue with the argument, I would urge you not to use the argument from authority, which is somebody has a PhD by their name, they know what they're talking about. That's a dumb argument.
What I'm trying to get at is that the fact that you get any other further education in any of these topics or any of these fields of study.
I don't need a 7-year degree in sociology, no bullshit when I hear it.
And granted, that's your opinion.
Right, because I'm here, yeah, giving it.
That would mean that you're also offering kind of an unqualified opinion on a lot of these topics.
See, again, you're just making the argument from authority. I don't think slapping a PhD from Ferris State next to your name makes you an expert in all things in the field in which you propose to speak. Okay, the fact is that either my argument's good or my argument's bad. Citing to my credentials is a really bad way of making an argument. It's like it's actually the equivalent of, it's so funny, when people do this, it's the equivalent of actually a religious person saying, citing to the Bible for an argument. I'm a very religious person, right? I mean, see this? It's the yarmulke, okay? I'm a religious person, okay? I never cite to the Bible. The reason I don't cite to the Bible is because that's an argument from authority. Okay, you may not believe the authority to which I'm citing. I don't believe the authority to which you're citing. So you're going to have to make me an argument as to what I'm saying that's wrong instead of just saying I don't have the properly enumerated degree from the institution of your choice.
I'm merely citing academia. If you haven't done any significant study or any type of educational, you haven't established yourself as a PhD or a doctorate in any of these programs, so how can you make a qualified opinion on any of these topics is my question.
Because I have read the studies and I can have an opinion on them.
And that's your opinion, and mine was just stated. So, thank you.
Yes, that was my opinion.